It's time, my friends, for another Devo tip on the Gospel of Isaiah. Why was Jesus so severely beaten? What's the point? Let's look at Isaiah 52 and 53. It begins with, "Awake, awake, put on your strength, O Zion. Shake yourself from the dust and arise. Loose the bonds from your neck, for you were sold for nothing, and you shall be redeemed without money." Christ has redeemed us, and we answer by rising, trusting, and freely receiving all he has accomplished for us. Yes, we belong to Jesus now. Sin no longer defines us. His name defines us. Our worth rises from his nearness. Our purpose is found in his voice. He comes to us not to brighten our mood or bandage our mess, but to bring a kingdom. The announcement itself, "Your God reigns," restores hope for us and all nations. And yet, the king's face was beaten beyond recognition. Why must such horror be part of the redemptive plan? Isaiah says, "As many were astonished at you, his appearance was so marred beyond human semblance." Why not move straight to the cross, death, and resurrection? Why is torture part of the plan? Isaiah's answer is hard to bear. In Isaiah 53, Jesus was not strikingly handsome or outwardly impressive, the kind of figure that would attract followers. No, he had no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. Instead of recognizing his worth, the world esteemed him not. They despised him as troublesome. And so the Roman soldier's beating was meant to humiliate, to maximize pain, and weaken the victim nearly to death before crucifixion, and terrorize the crowd. Sin does not merely wound. Taken to its extreme, it becomes deliberate cruelty. But the servant of the Lord bore or carried the grief and sorrow sin leaves behind. He was pierced for our transgressions and crushed for our iniquities, absorbing the full ugliness of human violence and shame. Like a sponge, holds the substance without becoming the substance itself. And Isaiah is very careful here. He says, "We esteemed him stricken, smitten by God." Notice that he uses the word esteem again, and it's important to define. Isaiah does not say Jesus was stricken by God, but that we considered him to be, denoting a false conclusion. We assumed the Father was punishing his Son on the cross when he was not. And whenever you look at Scripture carefully, whenever Scripture speaks of God's wrath, it never places it on Jesus. In fact, Paul tells us that God's wrath is still to come in 1 Thessalonians. And he alludes to Isaiah when he says that by becoming awake, children of day, Jesus has delivered us from the coming wrath. And this is why, my friends, why we awake. The King has shattered the lie that God is against us. As the embodiment of God's love, Jesus took on the curse, the consequence of sin, which is death itself, and healed our wounds. Having suffered so greatly, he will reflect on his work and he will be satisfied, says Isaiah 53:11. His satisfaction is not the cold triumph of wrath appeased, but the joy of a completed rescue, the gladness of having stood in our place and carried our sin until nothing remained to condemn. Yes, the God we feared truly loves us.